Hi, my name is David Brockway, and this is my intellectual autobiography for interdisciplinary studies. And so let's begin. I was born in Melbourne, Florida, in 1970, but we did not live there very long before packing up and moving to Springfield, Missouri. Stayed there for a bit, and then moved to Alabama. We moved to Mississippi. We moved to Georgia. We moved all over the Southeast. Seems like every year on the year. So my earliest memories were pretty much growing up in the back seat of our Buick station wagon, and not much to do. We had no Game Boys then, so I read. I read a lot of books. I was reading well above my level. 7, 8 years old, I was reading adult novels at that point. I enjoyed fiction a lot. I enjoyed fantasy and sci-fi. So every so often, we'd run through a town and would have a used bookstore. So mom and I would go in and trade my 30, 40 old books that I had in for 30, 40 new ones. And so I enjoyed reading a lot growing up. One of the important aspects of my youth was growing up in Mexico. We moved there when I was about 9 years old. My parents were full time missionaries, and they had a piece of land that they built a camp on, and kind of was for abused kids, troubled kids, and just helping families who were having a rough time in the center of Mexico in a place called Querétaro. Like I said, I moved there when I was 9, and I stayed off and on till I was about 25 years old. So, yes, I am fluent in Spanish. I speak better Spanish than I do English, I think, to the point where sometimes I still catch myself thinking in Spanish. And so I really enjoyed that. I love Mexico. I love the people. But one of the things that was almost a requirement was being homeschooled. My parents stayed pretty busy, but they were very involved in my education as best as they could. Both of them being more literary than science and math. So my science and math skills were non-existent and continue to be to this day pretty much. I may get through statistics, maybe. Regarding my academic interests, one thing I know about myself is that I am an artist. I love all things that are artistic, which lent itself when I did return to the United States and got the workforce was in a golf and tennis resort called Saddlebrook in Tampa, Florida. And I enjoyed catering to people, helping people out, making their day a little bit better by something that I could create or do, especially in the culinary side. I love to cook. I love to write. I love all these things that are about creating something and then offering it to someone and seeing the shine in their eye when they receive it. It gives me a lot of joy to do those things. And that ties in as well to my hobbies and pursuits. I've been a full-time musician, professional musician, since I was in my teens. Played a lot of music when I lived in Mexico. Played a lot of music here in the States. Did a lot of touring with a couple of different bands, and enjoy all types of music, especially being able to play in an orchestra. Many guitarists do not read music. I read enough to get by in an orchestra setting. So the classics, classical music to me is very important. I'm more than just a rock and roller, and I enjoy Latin oriented music. Of course, coming from Mexico, that would be the case, but there's not much out there that I don't enjoy listening to. Cooking, obviously, is stated. I have my degree now in culinary arts, and I love to cook, but I don't think I'm going to end up being a chef as a career. One, my knees just won't allow me to stand in the kitchen for 12 hours anymore. My other passion is an herb, what I call herbology. I grow herbs, all the herbs that I used to cook with. I've got 16, 17 varieties of herbs in my backyard that I tend to every day, and it's kind of my getaway moment to just step out back and enjoy seeing all my plants. And of course, fishing. I love to fish. I grew up again in Florida off and on. My grandparents lived there, so whenever we went back, we would go out fishing on the surf, and those were just moments that I really enjoyed and continue to enjoy to this day. Worldview. Um, I'm I'm older now. I'm not a young kid, and I'm pretty set in my ways with certain things. One thing that I have just no more patience or tolerance for is um, media, agenda-driven media, and agenda-driven politics, where no one really cares about an issue. They care about the gain that they can get from an issue. And so I've cut out watching news altogether. I get my news sources from a couple reliable places online. I do stay apprised of things that are going on in the world, but I'm no longer attached to the TV to wake up every morning and got to know what all is happening in the world. I came to the decision one day the only thing I can do is vote. And if you don't vote, then you've got no room to cry. You have to go out and vote, and that's what you can do. Outside of that, one of my greatest beliefs is in the golden rule: treat others the way you would want to be treated. I'm Unfortunately, my grandparents on my mom's side were pretty racial, and I saw that growing up. Even my mom, she says she's prejudiced. I think it's a little more than that. But again, having grown up in Mexico, I realize that a person is a person. It's not the color of their skin, or their race, or their sex, or their beliefs, but who they are on the inside and how they treat you as a person. And if you can get past all the bias and just see a person for who they are, sometimes you'd be amazed. You might come out making a pretty good friend. My traits and skills. Again, going back to the hospitality side, one thing that I am very good at is having a bit of empathy. I'm not over empathetic, but I've always found a way to relate to someone in their successes and their failures and identify with them. The other thing I have always been, I wouldn't say proud of, but acknowledge that I'm really good at multitasking, at problem solving and decision making, and doing it, being able to see a variety of options instantly, and usually going with what I deem at the time the best course based on knowledge that I have. Um, Things that I probably lack in and still need to work on is, of course, being an older student now and being set in my ways is sometimes examining, being self-aware of the things that we've discussed in class and being a little more open-minded to others' opinions. Not to say I have to agree with them, but truly listening to someone's side or opinion, or their coming at it from a different viewpoint is something I definitely need work on. The other thing I would say I've always been hard at doing is voicing my opinion at times when I probably should speak up, and rather just keep my mouth shut and let things be so as to not rock the boat. Um, Certainly, I think we all may have a little bit of this, but something I could definitely stand some more work on. Concentrations and moving forward. I'm going into my senior year. I have fall and spring left, and I will be graduating. The two things that I want to walk away with are a combination of something, food and words, whether it be textbook writing, whether it be menu writing or helping restaurants plan menus. doing food critiques, or there's just so many options that could tie the two together, that I don't have to be a chef and I don't have to be just a writer. I can combine these two and feel like that's certainly a direction I want to head in. That being said, I have had for the last year or so and bit of an idea about opening a Mexican restaurant in downtown Brunswick. One, because there's not one within 4.5 miles of there, and the downtown Brunswick area is growing in leaps and bounds. This is a good time to get in, and understanding that if I were to do this, owning a Mexican restaurant is not a job; it's a career, it's a lifestyle. You live that for all your days, and I understand that. So that would be a decision to be made later in this year or early next year. Most of my concentration right now is to finish strong with school. I've got, like I said, 2 more semesters left. I want to be really focused on my studies. I want to be very involved on campus. I want to spend my last year as a senior, ought to be able to spend their last year. So that being said, I'm putting off any other decisions until the studies are done. And in finishing, I guess I just want to touch on what this class is, what it's meant to me. In beginning, I was very unfamiliar with what actually interdisciplinary studies meant. I believed it was just being able to grab the classes that lean towards my interests and make my own soup, so to speak. But as it turns out, there is uh, some very interesting concepts, a lot of depth to what interdisciplinary studies is in application and academics. People who don't know what this is, who we would call them disciplinarians, could gain a lot by just even grasping the concept of having more inclusion, of having a broader, as we call it, critical pluralism, of being able to critically think through a problem and involve a variety of methods and options to weigh the outcomes. So, in closing, this has been a very interesting class. I'm looking forward to the next round of interdisciplinary studies, which I believe I'll be taking in spring. So, in the meantime, thank you very much. It's been an enjoyable semester, and I wish you well. Thank you.